right, we're back. Another episode. Nothing's off the table. I have my dear friend, Jenn Delandro here.
Hi, my
Hello,
handsome
Jenn.
Elge. My Elge.
And we have a special guest. He's in the building, but he is not present on camera. We have Pork Chops.
Yes, here he
Yep.
is.
My fiance was enamored. She's like, made a TikTok about how she's like, you want to know how my fiance is so Italian? He has a friend whose name is Pork Chops. Yes, Pork Chops.
You guys are in a bromance together.
It was love at first sight.
It was totally
It
love
really
at first
was.
sight. Like, how can you not?
I know.
Like, the both of you are so lovable.
I know. And I really I felt like just the love at first sight, you know?
It was definitely
If you don't hear from us ever again, then you know why. You know what happened.
You're going to run away.
Yeah. I'd be fine with that, honestly. So I met Jenn. When did we meet? A couple months ago, right?
Yeah, about 6 months ago.
Yeah, about 6 months ago, before I started my podcast. And when I told you about what my podcast was, you were very supportive. And I feel like a lot of people were supportive, and a lot of people were also like, hey, are you sure you want to put your shit out there like that? And I was a little nervous about my first episode talking about all the shit that I went through, and you and Rosella and our group were very, very supportive.
We have a great group.
We do. And we're all Italian.
Yep.
We're proud to be Italian, and we're proud of our heritage and where we come from. And I think that kind of binded us all together, because I think now more than ever, you see a lot of like Italian people and influencers and blah, 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 blah. But before that, before this like little come up on that, it wasn't like that.
But
know?
I think some of it's contrived. Don't you feel like that?
Yeah.
Some of it's not real, and people are trying to be that, but they're really not that.
Yes.
Yes. Both to us, it's very genuine.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yeah. And like, you know, for me, I was always proud to be an Italian. My family's Italian. I grew up Italian, cooking this, that, the other thing. And my family owns an Italian restaurant for 32 years. So
the best.
Yeah.
Delish.
Thank you.
Our hangout.
Even though you and Rosella's cooking is pretty good also.
It is good. It is. We gave you a delicious dinner that day.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you loved it.
Yes.
We made you go off your diet.
Yep. And I went really off the diet. It was not just a little bit.
You were trying to hold out.
Yeah.
You did, but you couldn't hold out that long.
No.
Not with the focaccia in front of
No,
your
it's like fucking sitting in a crack house for 6 hours. Eventually I'm going to smoke crack. The longer I stay there, the closer I'm like, all right, give me the focaccia.
Give me the lighter, let me smoke it. Mainlining focaccia.
So, you know what I think is interesting is that when I met you, I didn't know anything about your past or your history or anything that you went through. And then kind of through the podcast and releasing episodes, like a lot of people have come to me like, you know, like, I'm so proud of you. And you were talking about this, and like, I went through this, and I'm like, holy shit, I didn't like know that. And I think, the main thing I get from this is that like everyone's carrying their own cross.
Yes.
You know, like everyone's gone through their own shit. Some is addiction, some is abuse, some is this, some is that. But everyone's always gone through something, and you don't talk about it.
No.
That's like our society, especially in Italian cultures. Like,
Yep.
We don't talk about our feelings. We definitely don't talk about our feelings with strangers.
No.
And you kind of just keep kicking the can down the road.
So true.
Type vibe.
And especially with addiction, that's always like hush, hush, no.
Yes.
It's kind of like you're an addict. They're like, oh, you know what? Let me make you a plate of pasta and make it all better. You know, they don't realize how bad, addiction is. It's something that's kind of swept under the rug, I think, in our culture maybe, or they just don't, it's just not talked about as much as it would be talked about in mainstream.
I think it's now more than ever starting to be talked about more in more of a sympathetic and empathetic way.
Yes.
And starting to be looked at as a disease, which I believe it is.
It's 100% a disease.
But back in the day, like when you were my age and your parents and my parents, like it was a stigma.
Yes.
You didn't talk about it.
Nope.
You did heroin or you did pills, like you were like a junkie.
Oh, you did heroin? That's like the devil.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to reveal your whole story. I want you to do that. Tell us where you're from, where you grew up, what it was like, And then we can kind of evolve into the good stuff.
The good stuff and the good stuff.
The good stuff. That's why we're here.
So I grew up in Queens, New York, in a large Italian family, 5 of us. I'm the youngest of five kids. Big span in between the oldest and the youngest. So my sister is actually 18 years older than me. So it's crazy that everybody thought that I was actually her baby. And my mother was hiding it when she had me, because my mother had me so old at that point in time. Having a child at 38 years old was like, oh, no, that didn't happen then. So we have this big spread between the ages. So, I was always, my sister was like a lot like my caretaker, and, my mom obviously had 5 children. So it was rough on her. My dad was always working, hard worker. Unfortunately, my dad died when I was very young. I died when I was 11 years old, right in front of me, in a freak snowstorm in April. So I was the only one there with him. And I actually called 911 to come, to revive him. And, obviously it didn't work out that way. So that was rough, losing a father that young. Then my mom, I always say she died of a broken heart. She died 6 years after he did. She never smoked a day in her life, never drank a day in her life. My mother got sick out of nowhere, cancer, and she passed away. So I lost my parents between, I was 11, and then I lost my mom at 18. So I was basically orphaned at 18 years old. So that was probably a big blow. I mean, to me, as growing up, obviously without parents, everybody else has parents. I didn't have parents. And thank God my brothers and sisters, we all remained very close, which would break a family apart, I think, if there wasn't parental units. But it brought us closer together, thank God. And I had my grandparents who were always involved in my life. But it's not the same as your parents.
Of course.
It's just not the same. So I think, that probably that trauma brought me to, starting to dabble into, alcohol and smoking pot and, starting to do a little bit harder things like coke. I could say I've never gone any harder than coke or pills. I've never done heroin, but I was, we were, I got into it pretty bad. Like in my 20s, I was partying every day. I was out every night. But this is what happens in your 20s, so we would, I was partying all the time. I was with a guy, my boyfriend, he was a drug dealer. So of course I'm with the drug dealer. So what do you think's going to happen? I'm going to start partying with the drug dealer. So, there was that part of life where, I look back on it and I'm like, at that point it was, it wasn't like I felt like I was addicted then. I felt like it was like I was just having a good time at that point. And then I got pregnant with my daughter and basically stopped using drugs because I was pregnant. And she kind of saved my life basically at that point, because it probably would have went really south at that point, because a lot of my friends were, addicted. They were getting into harder drugs, getting into heroin, getting into other things at that point. The oxys weren't around at that point when I was my age and in my 20s, but, heroin was probably, something that a lot of people were going to. But she basically saved my life. And I had her and went back to school and I became a nurse. So that was a good thing. So I kind of stayed out of like the partying scene for a little while. I was, I would dabble a little bit here on the weekends or whatever. But again, I was in school, so I really couldn't because we were drug tested. So I kind of stayed away from it. But then I met my husband, which I knew him. I actually grew up with him. And we got together, and he was a stockbroker at the time, and it was Party City. Yeah. At that point. So it went from, weekend warrior to every day, partying every day, just like it just went down this whole path where we were constantly, getting, 8 balls and 8 balls of cocaine,
Yeah.
like in duffel bags that we were doing every week. It was crazy. So, I mean, we had fun, but it started to get where it became, not fun anymore.
Were you finished with nursing school at this point?
I was finished with nursing school at the time. And, the other thing is that I never thought that I was an addict because I was functioning, because I would still be able to get up and go to work every day and I would be okay, which looking back at it, like, I can't believe that I was like up the whole weekend and then got up Monday morning and went to work and actually took care of patients, which was crazy that I did that, but I did, but I felt like, I'm not an addict. I'm okay. I'm functioning. I'm still holding a job. I'm not in the street. I'm not broke. I'm not, I don't owe people money. People aren't banging down my door. My dealers aren't banging down my door asking me for money. So I'm okay. So I guess at this point, I never thought that I was an addict, but I was an addict. I was just a higher functioning addict.
Yeah.
Which I think is even worse because you're in denial.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to be in denial because you're taking care of your responsibilities, but you're still silently suffering.
Yes, silently suffering. Did you feel like you went through the same thing when you were?
No,
you just knew.
I was the worst fucking addict ever. As soon as I started doing drugs, nothing else mattered to me, and I was not able to accomplish anything other than getting high. And I really started to understand I was an addict when I was in college. And the first time I tried Xanax, I went from trying a Xanax to doing Xanax every single day after the first time I tried a Xanax. And then it was not going to class, failing all my classes, not showing up, blacking out, drinking on Xanax, blacking out. It was 0 to 100 real quick. But I was in denial still. Every time I'd go through something, I would just be like, oh, it's just an era. It's a bad phase. I'm young. I'm immature. Mom, my friends are doing it. Like, it was never, oh shit. Like, I went from doing 0.5 milligram of Xanax to now I'm doing 20 milligrams of Xanax a day in a month.
Isn't it crazy how quick it gets to that point?
Well, I remember just like doing it for the first time and just feeling like such a sense of relief because, my brain was finally turned off, right? It wasn't like I did it because I wanted to enjoy it. And then I enjoyed it too much because my problem was my thinking. Yeah. And my thinking was going 24/7, sober or not sober. So to have that magic pill that turned off my way of thinking and the way I thought about myself was like a fucking miracle. This is great. Yeah. I want to feel like this forever. So you and your ex-husband, when did things start to like go sour where you were like, I can't function, I can't do this? And I kind of want to talk a little bit about your time when you were working in the hospitals. You were working in the delivery room, right?
Yes, I was working in the delivery room at the time. I mean, when you're young, I mean, I was in my late 20s, early 30s at the time. So I'm not thinking like I have a problem. I'm like, everybody's doing it. My friends are all getting high. I mean, this was a pattern. So it started from Friday night, we'd hang out. Then it went to Saturday night. Then it goes to Sunday night. Then it goes to, then the weekend starts a little earlier. Now it's starting on Wednesday and on Thursday, and then on Tuesday now until it's becoming like an every night thing. And I think what happened is that him and I were married for, I believe, 2 years at the time, but he had gotten indicted before we got married. And I still look back and I go, I don't know why I married him before I knew he was going to go to jail, but I did. I didn't think it was going to be, I never thought he was going to really even get sentenced. I thought he was going to get off, but he didn't. He had to, he got sentenced, he got arrested was I pregnant with my second one? He got arrested in 99 and he went to jail he went through trial and he went to jail in 2002. 2, he left and went to jail. So I think during that time when it was like, everything was like unstable. And I think it was all that uncertainty. Yeah, we were partying probably a lot, like right before he was going away. So I think that in that point, like I was depressed. He was leaving. Reality didn't set in that like they were taking him away. Like he was going to leave. Like that's it. Like
how long was he going away for?
He was gone for 3 years at that point. So, here I was, again, a single mother because I already had one child. And now I had my second daughter with him. Here I am again. I thought I got married so that I would have a family and have a husband and have a stable home.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't have mom and dad. So this is what I've always wanted. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to have a stable environment. I wanted to have a home and a husband. And here I am again. With no husband, single parent, now with two kids, and he's in jail. So during the time he was in jail, I think that because I was depressed, he was gone. I was devastated that I didn't have him here, and I had 2 small kids. I started, of course, friends are coming over. What's happening now? We're partying more. Now it's becoming, let's everybody go to Jenn's house. Let's party every weekend. So my kids would go to my sister's house, or whatever for the weekend, and here Jenn would be partying every weekend. It started to infringe on my work because I started calling in sick a lot, and we have a lot of sick days. And I literally we have probably 5-week vacations and 2 weeks of sick days. And I use them all because you can use your vacation days. So it was like every month got worse and worse and worse when I was calling in. I couldn't call in anymore. So I started to notice that it was getting bad. But I was still hiding it. He came home, and of course he had to be sober. He was getting drug tested every week and blah, 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 blah. So I tried to be sober, but of course that only worked for like a month or 2, whatever it did. And then, then we were back to the races, him and I again, and partying every night. He started another business. He was a car dealership. He became a car dealer, wholesaler. And that was it. Or him and I, every day, we were partying, doing drugs. And then I didn't know he was even doing oxys at that point because he started doing oxys too. And I wasn't doing them, but he was. And then that was going on for a few years. I don't even know how I made it through. Like I look back on it, like I don't know how I hid it, but I really didn't hide it from anybody. People knew. Yeah. They knew. You think you're hiding it from people. People know. Yeah. People know you're not right. You're disheveled the next day. You're trying to sober up or whatever. The next morning you look like shit. Whatever, sniffling. Yeah. Your bags under your eyes. You got donuts in your nose. Everything. So it's like everything. Your face is red. I'm like, yeah, nobody knows. Yeah, okay, Jenn. Everybody knows. But it was like that was going on for a while, and then boom, he gets arrested again. So, second time, ready to go to prison. So that was a whole nother catastrophe of how that happened. So it was. Did you ever go to prison for a long time?
No, thank God.
Thank God you never.
Most I did was 36 hours in central bookings.
That was it. 36.
Felt like 45 years.
I can't even imagine being locked up.
It was. I mean, listen. I did central bookings, which is the worst of the worst, right?
I did central booking too.
Yeah, it's like you're in a cell with 30 people, and like some of them are like the homeless people on the train that were like peeing on the train, and then some of the guys were like murderers that are just got picked up, just got arrested, and are waiting to be processed. So like you're in there with some not so bad and some literally the worst of the worst. But what was your time like working in the hospital in the labor unit? Like, how did you function? And like, were there any like Did you enjoy it? What was your time like working with doctors? And
I mean, I enjoyed working in labor and delivery. I did. I loved the excitement of it. I loved, being in the room. I mean, I delivered a lot of kids in the time I was there. I was there for 11 years. So if I worked 3 days a week and I did 2 to 3 deliveries a day, do the math. That's how many kids that I was at their birth.
You did 2 to 3 deliveries a day?
Yep. And LIJ, forget it. That's like a baby factory there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now they do because they merged with North Shore, but at that time we were doing 7,000 births a year, that one little hospital. So that's crazy. Yeah, it was, yes. And now they're doing like 15,000 because they merged, but it was a lot.
Have you ever experienced like any doctors that like not rush, but like basically, they try to
rush the deliveries?
Rush the delivery because they're like going on vacation or something. I heard that from someone. And have you ever experienced that?
100%. I had a doctor one day and I knew he was trying to speed up this woman's delivery. He kept, I don't know if you know what Pitocin is. It speeds up labor. So it like induces contractions to speed up the labor. So he kept coming in the room and turning up the Pitocin because he knows if you do too much, the heart rate could drop and then you could call a C-section and then you could call it a day. So he didn't want to wait around for the delivery. So he had to go to a golf tournament. So he kept turning up the Pitocin.
Oh my God.
And when I left the room and I would come back in and I'd see like the heart monitor dipping, and I'd be like, and I look at the Pitocin and it was turned up. I'm like, and I knew exactly what it was. I turned it off. I said, let me tell you something. I said, if you touch that again, I said, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I told him. I put a chair right in front of it. I was like, right in front. I sat there with my arms folded. I said, you are not touching this. And I made him sit there the whole day. And it took like 12 hours for this lady to deliver. He was pissed because he wanted to go to a golf tournament.
And you think a lot of doctors still do that?
You know why? Yeah, because you know why? Why are they going to sit there for all those hours and wait for them to induce a labor when they could just say, hey, you know what? We'll call a C-section, call it a day. I'm in and out. And they get paid more money to do a C-section anyway than a natural birth.
Wow.
Because it's a surgery. I've seen it happen. I'm not saying all doctors, but I've seen it happen. And I've seen people call sections when they were just like, I don't think that she could push it out. Yeah, maybe if you gave her a couple more hours, she probably could have. But, I've seen it. I've seen them, it might be a little bit more time. You could be in labor for another 8 hours, telling the patient, like pushing them towards, like saying they'll do a C-section, So,
wow.
Yeah, I've seen it before. Yeah, screwed up.
So that's crazy. I can't believe that. When your husband went away for the second time, what was that? Was that the last straw for you?
That was the last straw for me. It was, obviously he came home. He couldn't, for the first time, he couldn't, he lost his, he couldn't be a broker anymore. He couldn't work on Wall Street anymore. He couldn't work in a bank anymore. He couldn't work anywhere anymore. So now he had to start a new business. So we started wholesaling cars. And of course, I put my name on the corporation. So now I'm the one on the hook for this whole thing right now. So he got arrested because of bank fraud. I don't know if you know how wholesaling works, that, you can pretty much sell a car 3 times without somebody realizing the money changing hands. So it was like robbing from Peter to pay Paul. So it was like they would sell a car 3 times, and basically that's how they got caught with the fraud in that way. It was like this whole. It was a whole scheme, and it was going on for about 2 or 3 years, and I knew something was going on because I just, when you just feel like something's happening, and he would come home and I go, I know something's wrong. Something's wrong. What's happening? Nothing. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And then my friend of mine, her husband, they were partners in some dealings, called me and said, hey, the cops are coming. They're going to arrest him. They're going to arrest Tommy. And they this is what he did. He took money. He literally dismantled the whole Long Island wholesaler dealerships for everybody. Like literally, he took down everybody with the scam that they did. Like everybody was involved. Like it was crazy, the whole thing, the scam that they had going on, and it was like $9 million. That like it was like it was crazy. And they arrested him on Christmas Eve in front of my kids, and it was crazy. And his cousin was involved in this whole thing. He was doing his cousin actually called and had him arrested. He told it because he was involved in something with him, and he was part of his arrest. His cousin, is that crazy? But yeah, they arrested him on Christmas Eve, so he was taken out of my house in handcuffs in front of my kids on Christmas Eve. I can't even believe they came to my house on Christmas Eve and arrested him. What scumbags, but they did. And when I first found out, I was just like, I don't know how you went to bed at night and put your head on the pillow without telling me what's going on. Like, I feel like when it comes to like cheating, okay, maybe you could get past that, but when you're dealing with money and your kids' livelihood and your life and your household, like our house is at stake right now. They're going to take our house from us. Yeah. Where are your kids going to live? Like, how do you not tell me and hide this from me? You know, I feel like that's more like even like put that aside, cheating or whatever it is, which it did happen. But the whole money aspect and us being a team and a husband and a wife and know to what's going on and to be and to protect your family, and you didn't do that. Like you didn't think like how this was going to hurt your family and hurt your kids and hurt me, and especially because you already did time already, So he was using, didn't care, and I found out too after this that he was like using like 1,300 of Oxycontin every day. So at that time was 2007. So what is it now? It's 13. It's probably like double. Yeah. What it would be now for what he would be using now. It would be like what? How much a day? I didn't even know it. He hid that from me. It was that crazy that he hid that he was using the oxys. I had no idea. That was so crazy to me. And he wound up getting arrested again. We had to go to trial. There was no way out of it. They slapped him with 5 years, and they didn't even give him time for, any time served. He had to do the full 5 years. Wow. And he did not go to a federal prison this time. This time he went to a state prison. So you'd much rather be in a federal prison than in a state prison. A state prison is not a place you want to be. Yeah. Never went to go visit him once the second time, where I used to. The first time he went away, I was crying every day that he was gone, going to visit him every weekend. I schlepped me and my kids to Pennsylvania twice a month to go see him in Allenwood. I never even wanted to ever drive through Pennsylvania ever again because I drove there so many times when he was in jail the first time. Second time, I never went to go see him in jail. I never went to go see him. I had enough. I said, this is the last straw. I said, you put your family in jeopardy again. And now look where we are. So basically I had to go bankrupt with an 850 credit score because I was going to lose everything. I was going to lose my house. They want to take my house from me. I had to pay back, we got a judgment. I had to pay back one of the wholesalers $300,000 out of my money that I had to pay them because they were going to take me. I was going to get indicted because my name was on the business. Like, I'm lucky I did not get in trouble. Like, I am so lucky that I did not get indicted for what happened because my name was on the business. But they knew that it was just namesake only, that I was never in the shop. I was never in the operations. Yeah. They knew I had the full-time job in the hospital. I'm like, how can I be there with any of these transactions? I was literally working in the hospital that day. Yeah. There's no way that you can connect me making these transactions. I wasn't there, so I could have been wrapped up in that, and I could have probably done time. And I've had friends who have, their husbands have gotten in trouble, and they've actually had to do time because they were involved with their husband's business and their shenanigans. So I was really lucky that I didn't, but I could have been right there with him, and I would have had to serve time just for having my name as CEO in the business on the LLC that we had. So he put me in all this jeopardy and his children, and I'm like laying on my kitchen floor, and I'm like saying to myself, like, you know what? I go, my kids are better off with me dead because I'm worth more dead than alive. They could get my insurance policy. I was like ready. I was ready to like kill myself. I said, I don't know what to do. I said, is it better if I'm just dead and they could just collect on it because he's a fuck up? And what do I do now? What the hell do I do? And you know what? I picked myself up. I dusted myself off, and I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own business. I always was interested in doing aesthetics, and I loved it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this, and I'm going to try and see if I can make it. And you know what? I'm glad that I didn't give up. I did. And I started 2009, and I built my whole practice. And now here I am, 2025, not crushing it. But there was a lot of trials and tribulations during the time when this was going on, though.
So how did you pay back the judgments, and how did you persevere through that to get to the point where you were like going from nursing, being a nurse in the delivery room, to starting your business while paying off the judgments and fucking raising 2 kids?
3 now.
3 kids.
I had 3, yes. In the interim, I had another baby when he was home. So I forgot to mention I had 3 kids. Yeah. So 3 kids, dealing with him in prison, paying back money, paying back people from the street who were like coming after me that wanted money from him. Other car dealers that were, slighted that they never got paid. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I had to go bankrupt, and I had to, pay them back. I mean, thank God that I had some money that my grandparents left me. So I basically had to like give him my inheritance to pay off.
Wow.
His judgment. But by the time I had to pay off the $300,000, I already had Dolce already. So I did save money for like the kids' college fund. So it was that was their college funds that I paid them back. So that was money I saved for my kids to go to college. So, and there was no way around it. I had to pay them. There was nothing. It was either that or they were going to take my house from me. They were going to take my house.
And what year was that when you paid the judgment?
That was 2013 it was.
So from 2012 or 2013 till 2025, what does it look like? What's what's your life? How's your life evolved to a much better place? Because I know, but
yeah. I mean, it was rough. I had a rough patch while he was gone for 5 years he was in jail. I was depressed. I was using at the time. I was alone and devastated that I had to, be mom and dad again. I mean, that's what I did. I had to. I had no choice. I had to be mom and dad to my children at this point. So, it was rough. I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't hard. It was really hard. I went back to school to get to become a nurse practitioner. That was rough. So I was working my business, working in the hospital, raising 3 kids, and going to school at the same time. And and still using. Can you imagine still functioning using at the time?
God.
Isn't that crazy? So I had to do something. I felt like it was like I was still using it. I can't even, I look back on it going, how the hell did I do that? I don't know how I did it. But I decided that I was going to go into the rooms, and I did. And I wound up going to NA. I got a sponsor, and I I stopped using. I was using a lot of Xanax at the time, not as much, not using cocaine anymore. That was more when I was younger, but like I stopped, I was using a lot of Xanax at the time. I was drinking a lot. And, I got a sponsor and, I got clean, and I was clean for about 3 years. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm fine. And this was the bad thing, is that I should have never stopped going to meetings. And I stopped going to meetings because, and I'll tell everybody this, just because you think you're recovered doesn't mean you're always a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yep.
That one drink, that one pill will bring you right back to where you are. And it's so true. And I stopped going to meetings, which I shouldn't have done. And of course, I'm fine. And what happened? A few years later, I had an injury in my back, and I have had injuries from when I was a nurse pulling 300-pound patients off the table by myself, which I shouldn't have did, but I did. And I went to my primary. I'm like, my back is killing me, blah blah blah. And he's like, oh yeah, writes me a script. It was that easy. So here I was again now, starting to taking oxys now for pain. And literally from that prescription, I was taking them for about 6 years at that point. So I went from taking 20 milligrams a day to about 100 milligrams a day that I had. And I shouldn't have even started, but I couldn't believe how, and looking back again too, how easy it was that my primary just handed me this prescription and said, yeah, you just take them, you'll feel better. And I took them, I'm like, wow, I could go to work. I don't have this pain on my back anymore. I'm good. I can function. But you know what? When you're taking something every day and you need that to function, it's a problem. It's a problem. Even though I wasn't taking it to get high, it was still causing my mood. It was still causing mood swings. It was a dependency. It was something that, like I said, my mood was altered. I was very testy with my kids, angry all the time. I felt like I lost my sense of humor. I lost my personality. And that was going on for about 5 or 6 years. And it was funny that I wasn't doing anything else. It's so weird how you drop one addiction to another. So now that I'm like, well, I'm not partying and drinking anymore. I'm just taking this pill to get rid of this pain. Oh, this is not a problem. This is not an addiction, but it is a problem. It is an addiction. It's a big problem if you have to depend on something every day to get you through that day.
Yeah.
That's a problem. If I need that to get me through my day, then this is an issue.
Yeah. And, I think people don't actually realize that they have a problem until like they're so fucking far down the line that they're like, holy shit, how do I not function without this? And you're actually the first guest I've had on that's gone to NA instead of AA.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'd never liked NA. I always
Do you think there's a lot of preachers in NA?
There's a lot of fucking preachers in AA, but I felt like AA was a little bit broader, and the program itself was a little more inclusive and warmer, and NA was maybe a little bit more hardcore.
Yeah. It's very hardcore in NA.
It's very, very hardcore. Hey, listen, AA is hardcore, but it's more like spirituality, I feel like, which once I was able to accept that I was an addict, I needed that spiritual aspect to kind of really like help me.
Yeah.
But I think, listen, whatever works, different strokes for different folks.
You think that, I always felt like AA would look down more on people who did drugs, because my problem wasn't alcohol.
Maybe,
it was the drugs.
And I'm the same as you, by the way.
Alcohol caused it when you start drinking. What's going to happen?
Listen, whenever I was doing drugs, I was drinking. Right. I wasn't just doing drugs by themselves, right. But I also have alcoholism. Like I have the ism, which is like, once I start, I can't stop.
You can't stop.
And kind of like it says in the big book, like, the phenomenon of craving, like, once that switch is flicked on for me, there's no off button. So I find when I go to a lot of meetings in AA, like most people are drug addicts also. It's very rare today, at least, that I see real deal soul alcoholics that just are drinking from morning to night, you know, but you know, it all, whatever works for people works. I think it's just about finding your people and finding people in recovery that you can relate to, that you can call a sponsor, all that stuff that really helps with long-term recovery and sobriety.
It's so important to get obviously a home group and get a sponsor and get people that you can connect with, because, you know, people don't realize, like, when you're an addict, like, you know, they don't understand. People, unless you're an addict, don't understand what it is to be an addict. They don't get it. And unless you are around other addicts, it's very hard to communicate with them, to let them understand what you're going through, because it's rough, right? When you're trying to talk to somebody, like I say, I'm talking to my sister about it, like, you know, but I don't understand. Like, no, you don't understand. Like, you could have one drink, or you could have one. I have to have 30 drinks when I'm out. Or, you know, I'm not going to take one pill for my pain. I'm going to take the whole bottle for my pain. Like, they don't get that. They don't get that whole thing.
I also feel like even as an addict, like, my way of thinking is just fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, even when I'm not on drugs, like, I just like here's the right way to go. Here's the wrong way to go. Like, I just instinctively go to the wrong thing because it, like, feels better. And I get that rush. I get that dopamine hit. And like they say in AA, like, we came for our drinking and we stayed for our thinking, you know? And it's like, I had to realize that I'm not coming here to just stop drinking and doing drugs. I'm coming here because I have a problem with my way of thinking, and my way of thinking is what led me to drinking and doing drugs, and turn that thinking off. And that was the solution to my problem. But we could go down this fucking rabbit hole all day long.
Yes.
But I think the most important thing is, like, now, like, you're crushing in your business life. Like, you take care of you take care of your kids. You're a present mother. You know, you're able to show up for your friends and your family. You're always working. You're like, you have 2 locations. You have one in Queens, one in Brooklyn. You're opening up a new one in Jersey. You're opening
4, actually.
There you go. 4. You're opening up a coffee shop.
Yeah, I'm opening up a coffee shop.
You're just constantly evolving, constantly growing. And I think that for people who are struggling in addiction, or even struggling in early sobriety, they don't know what it's going to look like or what they're capable of, because they've just been chained down for so long.
Yeah.
And I think the stories of what it was like and the war stories and shit like that, like, yeah, it's cool. But I think what's even better is, like, the hope that you have to offer people that life is great and life can be great, and you can get through these things, and you can do all, you know, have a business and have a family.
And you can get through it without doing drugs.
Oh, yeah.
You can. I mean, and to me, I say, I always tell everybody, is like, I was a functioning addict. I didn't look like the typical addict on the street, homeless, toothless, you know, dirty. I was put together. I hid it very well, but that doesn't mean I wasn't suffering as much as somebody else, or doesn't mean that I'm not an addict because I wasn't. My circumstances were different. Yeah, you know, that doesn't change it. There's a lot of people who are wealthy that'll never be on the street. Well, you know, right? Yeah. That, you know, we'll never. But it doesn't change. It doesn't change that we're still addicts. We still have issues. And we still have to change our way of thinking. I don't know if we're ever going to change our way of thinking. I think we just have to learn how to catch ourselves before we make that wrong choice, because it's easier to make that wrong choice than it is to make the harder choice. The harder choices are always the harder choices are always. It's always easy to take the easy road out, right? Yeah. So if you're looking at something and you're always gonna, this is gonna be an easy way, but drugs is an easy way to get yourself out of feeling like shit, right? Yeah. But you only feel better for that moment, and then once the drugs wear off, then you just want more to feel better. Yeah. And you're never gonna feel as good as you feel from that first time out was when you always felt the best, and you'll never get that back again.
And our disease is like the only disease that tries to convince you that you don't have a disease, right? Like, you get fucking cancer, you go to the doctor says you got cancer, you got to do this, you have to have surgery to remove the tumor, then you're going to do chemo, and then you're going to do radiation. you don't ever for a thought in your mind say to yourself like, no, you know what? Maybe I don't have cancer.
Right.
Like, I don't need to do the surgery.
Right.
Nah, I'm not
going
doing
to do chemo.
No.
Nah, I'm not going to do radiation.
My brain loves to like remind, like to think about all the great times I had drinking and drugging and forgets all the times where like I'm alone in the bathroom doing drugs, wanting to kill myself.
Yep.
And that maybe I'm like somewhat normal and I could go back out and have a drink again, which today I don't really have those thoughts often, but there are some times where I like think, I'm like, man, like it'd be nice to just be able to go to dinner with Mia and have a glass of wine or enjoy a nice bottle of wine, some pasta and whatever, and be normal.
Absolutely. But for people like us, it's not an option.
No.
Because you know where that's going to take you.
Yeah.
You know where that leads.
I'll end up in fucking Colombia for 3 months again. Drug psychosis. My mom crying.
God forbid. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem with, you know, and that's where people don't understand. And sometimes like you're out with people and they're like, oh, you don't drink? Why don't you drink? Why don't you have this? I'm like, and then you want to say, because I'm a fucking addict. That's why I don't want to drink. All right. Because I don't want to. I just don't want to. And it's like, some people just don't get it. I'm happier that I'm sober now, that I haven't used. I am happier now. My mind is clearer.
Yeah.
I am happier. I mean, we're feeling everything now. Yeah. When we used to be able to numb everything. Yeah. It was numb for the moment, and it sucks that we don't have that power to numb ourselves anymore. But however, it's better I'd rather be sober and dealing with these problems than not sober and not dealing with my problems.
Does anyone in your family, like on your side of the family or your kids, suffer from addiction?
No, none of my, you know, not my mom, not my dad, not my brothers and sisters, but you know, I worry about my younger one because I see she has like mine and my ex-husband's, you know, like that.
The isms.
The isms. Yeah, exactly. The isms. So I get worried about her a little bit. So I feel like I gotta reel her back, you know, reel her in, that I don't want her to go off that. But thank God, I mean, my kids never will like that. And living with me and him, I'm so surprised that they're not, because we were, you know, just having the both of us and having both of our personalities. It's amazing that they're not, you know, but they're good. Thank God I have good kids. Knock on wood. I have really good kids, which I
That's a testament to you, by the way.
And I did that. And thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't, you know, my ex doesn't give me that sometimes. I wish he would give that to me, that I raised them alone. I was in a 20-year marriage. 10 of that time, he was gone in prison, or the other time he was in a coma because he was high or whatever. So it's like, we really didn't have a marriage, and they really didn't have a father.
Yeah.
He was always absent. So I was both. You know, I mean, yeah, I think they're good kids. I'm lucky to have them. I'm lucky.
Let's end on a high note. Let's end on a high note. For somebody who's watching right now, who's struggling with addiction or is struggling in sobriety, what would your piece of advice be if they want to start a business, they're afraid to start a business, or they're in a similar situation that you were in, they have a judgment against them, or they're in an abusive relationship? Some words of hope.
You know what? Just believe in yourself. And you know what? If you believe in yourself, you can do anything. You can't say, I can't do it. You have to say, I will do it. And it's going to get done. And you could do it. And you got to get yourself a good sponsor, a good support group, you know, and make sure that, you know, you do keep connected to your sponsor and to, you know, the people that are in your circle, so that you can talk things out, you know. And it's not easy, but anybody could do it. If I could do it, anybody could do it.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. Guys,
thank you so much.
Jen also has a really great podcast. It's a lot funnier and cooler than mine. It's called Cats and Pudding. I'm going to put it in the description for this YouTube episode. Check it out when you have a chance. Jen, thank you so much again for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Alge. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much.